We're now going to start learning Sicha Beis Rabbeinu Bavel. This is printed in Sefer HaSichas Tafshin Nun Beis, page 465. The title is Va'ehi Lahem Lemikdosh Ma'at Ze Beis Rabbeinu Bavel. Al Dvar Beis HaKnesses U Beis HaMedrash HaMerkozi Dilyubavitch Shel Bilyubavitch 770. Seif Aleph. Al haposuk va'ehi lahem lemikdosh ma'at ba'rotzes asher bo'usham. There is a posuk in Yechezkel chapter 11 verse 16 which says, I will be for them a miniature sanctuary in the lands to which they came there. Shegam b'chutz la'aretz, which even in the diaspora, ba'arotzes asher bo'u sham, in the lands to which they came, b'mokoim ubizman hagolus, in the place and time of golus, yeshnoi mikdosh ma'at, there is a miniature sanctuary, me'en v'dugmas hamikdash hagodol asher b'Yerushalayim, which is a miniature of the great Beis HaMikdash that was in Yerushalayim. That's how the Metzudas David explains the pasuk. The Targum Yonason says, Tanyon Sheni LeBeis Mikdasha. It was like a second to the Beis HaMikdash. Isa B'Gemara, and the Gemara in Megillah, page 29a, states on this, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yitzchak says, Elu bate knesias u bate midrashas shebebavel, that the pasuk refers to the shuls and the houses of study in Bavel. Rebbe Lezer Amar ze beis Rabbeinu shebebavel. Rebbe Lezer says that the pasuk refers to Beis Rabbeinu, the house of our Rebbe in Bavel. Rashi on the Gemara says, Rabbeinu, our Rebbe, is Rav. This referred to the Beis HaMedrash of Rav in Bavel. V'yesh loymar. Now we may say, Shereb Yitzchak v'Rebbe Elazar loy pligi, that in our Gemara, Rebbe Yitzchak and Rebbe Elazar are not arguing with each other. Hainu, meaning to say, Shegam ledas Rebbe Elazar nikroim kol bate knesias u bate midrasha shebebavel mikdash mat. Rebbe Elazar also agrees that all the shuls and bate midrash in Bavel are called a miniature sanctuary. V'gam ledas Rebbe Yitzchak ikaru shleimus ha'inin de mikdash mat hu bebeis Rabbeinu. And even Rebbe Yitzchak agrees that the principal and complete miniature sanctuary is the Beis Rabbeinu in Bavel. So, in principle, they agree with each other. It's just that Rebbe Yitzchak says that the pasuk refers to all the Bate Knesias, and Rebbe Elazar says that it principally refers to Beis Rabbeinu, which even Rebbe Yitzchak agrees that that was the principal one. Hatoyar Rabbeinu, when we use the term Rabbeinu, hu al shem shemelamed Torah letalmidim, it refers to a teacher teaching Torah to students. Ubeis Rabbeinu, so when we say the house of our teacher, habayis sheboi melamed Rabbeinu Torah letalmidav, it refers to the house in which the teacher teaches the students. Ubeis Medrash, and therefore it's a house of study. Ubemela harihu gam beis haknesses, and therefore automatically it's also a house of prayer. Habayis shaboy miskansin horava hatalmidim letfila, the place where the teacher and student gather for prayer. Kiven shahalimud v'hatfila tzarich lias bebayis echad, because learning and davening needs to be in one place. Kehemsha chasugya As the Gemara continues, Havai gerisna bebei kenishta, that they would usually learn in the place where they would daven. And there's a similar Gemara in Brachas, page 8a, which also says that they would only learn in the place where they would daven. Umayli Yasera bebeis hakneses ubebeis hamedrash shebebeis Rabbeinu legabe shar bate knesias ubate midrashis, and there's an advantage in the shul and the Beis HaMedrash called Beis Rabbeinu over all other shuls and bate midrashis. Kidrashas Chazal, as the Gemara says there in Brachas, Mai dichsiv, what is the meaning of the pasuk in Tehillim, chapter 87, verse 2? Oihev Hashem shari Tzion mikoil mishkanos Yaakov, that Hashem loves the gates of Tzion more than the dwelling places of Yaakov. Says the Gemara, Oihev Hashem sha'orim hametzuyonim bahalacha, yoser mibate knesias ubate midrashis. Hashem loves the gates that are distinguished in halacha more than other shuls and bate medrash. Miyom shechara Beis Hamikdash, because from the day that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, ein lo lahakadosh baruch hu be'elamai ela arba'a meshel halacha. Hashem has in His world only the 4 cubits of halacha. De bizman shebeis Hamikdash kayim, because in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, hoya sham lishkas hagozis, there was there the hewn chamber, shemisham yitzes halacha psuka al pi Sanhedrin, in which the Sanhedrin sat and issued halachic directives. Ve'imohem vadei hashchina shruya, and with them the Shechina rested. Ve'achshav shecharav Beis Hamikdash, and now that the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, oisen daladama shal halacha, those 4 cubits of halacha are mokim kavua, a fixed place, shemimenu yoitzes hayra la'anshei ha'ir, from where there issues teaching and decisions to the people in the city. V'lochin gam hatfila hi b'mokim zedavka, and that's why the tefillah is also in that place. Shezeu inyone shel Beis Rabbeinu, and that's the idea of Beis Rabbeinu. It's rather like, as the Rabbi says in footnote 12, the Sanhedrin, like the Shofet, the judge, Asher Yir Bayomim Hahem. So just as there was the Sanhedrin in the hewn chamber in the Beis Hamikdash, now that the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, that has been transferred to the Beis Rabbeinu shebebavel. Umitzad ha'ilui hamiyuchad de Beis HaKnesses o Beis HaMedrash shebebeis Rabbeinu legabe shar bate knesias u bate midrasha shebebavel, and because of this great advantage of the shul and the Beis HaMedrash of Beis Rabbeinu over all other shuls and bate medrash, harehu mikdash ma'at ha'ikari, therefore it is the principal miniature sanctuary shenoisin hakadosh baruch hu Yisrael, which Hashem gives to Yidden bisman hagolus, in the time of Golus, temuras hamikdash hagadol shebi in place of the Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim. Seif Beis. V'yesh l'havi raya, now we can bring a proof, l'chiluke hadargas b'mikdash ma'at, to the various gradations of the miniature sanctuaries, mima shekosa b'hascholas hasugya, by examining the beginning part of the Gemara, al dvar hashroas hashchina b'Yisrael bizman hagolus, about the resting of the Shechina in the time of Golus. The Gemara says, B'chol mokim shegalu Shechina imohem, wherever Yidden were sent into Golus, the Shechina went with them. Golu leMitzrayim, when they went to Mitzrayim, to Egypt, Shechina imohem, the Shechina was with them. Golu leBavel, Shechina imohem, when they went to Bavel, the Shechina was with them. Says the Gemara, Bebavel Heicha, where was the Shechina in Bavel? Omar Abaya. So Abaya's opinion is Bebei Knishta du Hutzal. It was in the shul in a place called Hutzal. This was a shul near to the Beis HaMedrash of Ezra HaSofer, just below Neharda. Ubebei Knishta Deshaf v'Yosef b'Neharda, and it was in the shul which removed and sat in Neharda, in these places. Says the Gemara, don't say either in this place, don't say in both these places, ela zimnin hacha v'zimnin hacha. But sometimes it was here and sometimes it was there. In other words, there was one principal place where it was. In footnote 14, the Rabbi brings, what is the idea of Shaf v'Yosef b'Neharda? What does that mean? So he says that this was actually a place that the Yechanya, who was exiled from Yerushalayim, came and built a shul. And he built it from the stones and the earth, which he brought with from Yerushalayim. As the pasuk says, Ki rotzu avodecha es avoneha v'yasafara yechenenu, that the servants of Hashem desire her stones and her dust. So they came to Bavel, and with them they brought the stones and dust of Yerushalayim and built this Beis HaMedrash. So that's the meaning of Shaf Yosef. In other words, it was removed and then sat in that place. So the meaning of Shaf Yosef and Hadar means that they took the original stones of the Beis HaMikdash and replanted them or re-established them in this place in the Hardah. There is a beautiful explanation according to Kabbalah of the Rebbe's father in this, in Likutei Levi Yitzchak. Hachidush b'shchina imahen gam begolos hu. So the novelty of what the Gemara says, that the Shechina was with the Yidden whilst they were in Golus, is Gilui hashchina b'mekomis miyuchades kamei b'mishkan u'mikdash. That although Hashem is everywhere, but there was a revelation of the Shechina in certain places, like there was in the Mishkan and in the Beis HaMikdash. Umakim zehu bebate knesius ubebate midrashes shenikra mikdash ma'at kehemshech haGemara. And when it says the Shechina was with them, this means that there were certain places designated for the revelation of the Shechina, and these are the shuls and the bate medrash that they had in Golus. V'al pizeh yesh loima. So according to this, one may say, Shebehemshech divrei haGemara, that when the Gemara continues and says, Bebavel heicha, where was the Beis Rabbeinu in Bavel? Bebei knishta de Hutzal, bebei knishta de Shaf Yosef b'Neharda, bati knesius miuchadim shebebavel. When the Gemara says that the Shechina was in these specific places, which were the designated very, very exceptional places in Bavel, Medubar oides gilui Shechina beoifen naila yosem migilui hashchina mebeshar bati knesius abati midrashes. Therefore, the Gemara must mean that the gilui hashchina, the revelation of the Shechina in these places, were exceptional, even greater than the Shechina in other shuls and bati medrash. So here we clearly see that there are gradations in the Shechina, and the principal Shechina is in this exceptional shul. Makim shenikar shehi shoyrashon. Rashi says this is the place where it's recognizable that the Shechina is there. V'yaseira mizu, and more than that, sheyeshnoi makom miyuchad. There is one specific place, echad yochid umiyuchad, one designated, one and only specific place. Shehu temuras hamikdash shebi Yerushalayim, which is in place of the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim, HaMoker HaShayivcha Hashem, the place which Hashem chose, Sheboy Iker Hashras V'Gilui Hashchina, where you have the principal resting of the Shekhinah. Shalachein, and therefore, Loitei Mahacha V'Hacha, don't say that the Shekhinah was in both places, says the Gemara, Bebei Knishta Dehutzel, Bebei Knishta Deshaf V'Yosef V'Narda, Ela Zimnin Hacha V'Zimnin Hacha B'Makom Echad Davka. In other words, of course, a level of the Shekhinah was in each Beis HaMedrash and Beis HaKnesses. However, there was one special shul and Beis HaMedrash where the principal Shekhinah was. And this is emphasized in the name of the place. It's the shul which was removed and sat in the Hardah. Shahapirish de Shaf v'Yosef, the meaning of the word Shaf v'Yosef, who Shenosa Mikdash v'Yoshav Shon. The Aruch explains it means that the Mikdash moved, relocated to that place. Which means that the revelation of the Shechina, which was in the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim, and not in any other place, Nosa traveled, Yoshav and relocated, b'mokem miyuchad b'Bavel, in one specific designated place in Bavel. Tumuras HaMikdash b'Yerushalayim, instead of the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. And in Ha'ara 22, the Rabbi says, V'lochein harihu gama mokem ha'ikari degilui HaTorah. And therefore that place is also the principal place of Torah revelation. Mokem kavua shemimenu yotzis hara l'anshi ha'ir, the designated place from which teaching goes out to all the city. Al derech ubedugmas lishkas hagozis shebe Beis HaMikdash, comparable to the hewn chamber which was in the Beis HaMikdash. Umizeh muven. So from this we can understand gam minigel lemikdash ma'at, that when the Gemara refers to the miniature sanctuary shebehemshech haGemara, shebehemshech hasugya, of which the Gemara is referring to, shenoisef al klolos ha'inyan de mikdash ma'at shebechol bati knesias ubati midrasha shebebavel. In addition to there being a miniature sanctuary in all shuls and in all Batei Medrash in Bavel, Yeshnei HaMikdash Ma'at HaIkari, nevertheless there is one principal shul, Tumuras HaMikdash HaGadol Shebi Yerushalayim, which is in place of the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. And that's called Beis Rabbeinu Sheba Bavel, the house of our Rebbe in Bavel, Shenosa Mikdash v'Yoshav Sham, from which the Mikdash relocated to that place.